In this video, get ready as we install the hand wheel, the thread take up, the needle bar, the presser bar, and then set the hook timing as well as the needle bar height, all on this Singer 99. I can't wait to get started. Let's take a moment to go over all the parts you might want to get out and ready. There are a lot. I'm not going to name them. I'm just going to tell you which ones to grab. Let's grab the hand wheel parts. We're going to put that on first. If you removed the tension pin releasing lever and the pin that holds it in, we're putting that back in. If you removed the presser bar lifter and pin, we're putting that back in. All of the parts for the presser bar, all of the parts for the needle bar, and all of the parts for the thread take up. I know it's a lot of parts, but we need to do all of this together to get to the point where we can actually time the hook on our Singer 99. We'll start with the hand wheel. Now, when I put a hand wheel back on a machine, I like to set it up on its nose if I can. It's just easier that way. So we're going to take our hand wheel, and hopefully you have cleaned this collar and the inside of the hand wheel really well at this point. Go ahead and run some oil inside the hand wheel, and then we're just going to set it right down onto the machine. Check to see if it spins without this center part, the collar, spinning. You want to know that it does move freely without this turning too. If the whole thing spins, including the center, clean both off and try again. Then you're going to take your little washer, and this is what helps us have the stop motion feature on our sewing machines. There are two center prongs, and if you look, they kind of point up. You can run your fingers along one side and you'll feel they point up. Put them so they're pointing up, not down, and you have a 50% chance of putting them in the right orientation, because we can either turn it this way or we can turn it this way. Now, take your stop motion knob and put it onto your machine. Hold your hand wheel, tighten down the stop motion knob. Using your finger, feel underneath, and right underneath on that washer, you should feel these three tabs sticking out. You want to make sure that one of those tabs is not directly under the hole here in the stop motion knob where we're going to put this little screw. It needs to have enough clearance when you turn it counterclockwise that it can go at least a quarter of a turn before it hits another one, and it can't be right on top of one either. So I'm going to do that again. I believe this one's right. I'm feeling that tab is right over here. So I'm good to put my screw in. If it was not, I would just take that washer and spin it around the other way and then put my stop motion knob back on. So once you get it set up right, put the screw back in. Now let's flip it back over. So having the hand wheel on is going to be really helpful when we are installing the needle bar and stuff. When we go to put the belt on the machine, you may have to take it off. It's no big deal. You know how to put it back on. So now I'm just going to give it a spin. Everything's spinning nice and free, and we're ready to start installing more parts in the nose. So let's start with the presser bar lifting lever. You may or may not have taken this piece out. The way that it comes out is through the back side of the nose. Do you see this hole right here? There's a hole in the back as well, and this pin goes in, and it only goes in one way because it's tapered. So this is the way that it goes, and it goes all the way through the body, through the hole in the presser bar lifter, and sort of out the back. So what you need to do if you took it out is now you're going to want to put the presser bar lifter in, and you're going to look through this hole. Sometimes it helps to have a flashlight from the back. You're going to line up the hole here with the hole here, and you're going to go ahead and get that pin slid in. Giving it a wiggle. Now I can feel the pin is went in. I'm pulling on the presser bar lifter. It's not coming out. I can go ahead. I'm going to tap this pin in just a little bit. I have a little punch. Give it a little tap. It's not protruding out the back. Presser bar lifter's back in. Same goes for the tension pin releasing lever, this little fork thing here. It's not necessary to take it out, but I did because this machine was so dirty. This hole here is actually a screw hole plus a hole for this pin that's going to hold the lever in. And it's the same idea. There's a hole in the back. That's where we tapped it out from the back out the front. Now we're going to put it in the reverse way. And if you have a flashlight, again, to line everything up, because you're going to try to get the pin through this little hole here. It's fun. That's what you want to do. So I'm going to put this in next. So I've got a flashlight back here. I'm shining it. All the holes are properly aligned. When I think I have it, I'm going to get that pin in. Now, I want this pin to go further back because remember, this is a threaded hole. So I'm going to take my punch and I'm just going to put it on that pin. And I'm going to tap it back. And I know this is in, it's not coming out. And I just need it back far enough that the screw that I'm going to put in later will fit. I think it is, when I go to put that screw in, if I need to tap it back farther, I will. But now we have the presser bar lifting lever and the tension pin relieving lever in. If you took them out, that's how I would put them back in. Now let's move on to the thread take-up system. Now, depending how far apart you took yours, it might look different. But the first thing that I'm going to do is this post here that looks like this goes up in this hole. And there is a little set screw that's going to set it down in place. I just want to get it up in the hole and just push it back. Don't worry about this set screw yet. The next two parts that we want to put in are this little post here and this linkage. See the flat spot here? That's where the set screw that we put in the counterbalance is going to rest. The linkage, you're going to take the post and see how I've positioned my linkage. The one that's longer is sticking to the left. I'm sliding it on the post like that. So it should look like that with the longer part hanging down to the left. Now I'm going to go ahead and slide this into the hole here on the counterbalance. Probably doesn't hurt to put a little bit of oil. Like that. Now, so I can put the set screw that's going to go on that flat spot we just looked at, I'm going to turn the counterbalance because the hole for the set screw is up here. I'm going to turn it towards the back of the machine and I'm going to lay the machine down and get this set screw in on that flat spot. This is a great time to have a screw starter. I'm just going to get the set screw onto the screw starter, oil up the threads on that, and then looking down in this hole, I'm going to turn that post until I see the flat spot, which I can see it right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and get that set screw down in the hole. Get it started with my screw starter and then come in with a screwdriver. We want to tighten that down. Now, just snug it down, but don't crank it down. We'll do that in a minute. You'll feel kind of the little piece turn in the nose and your fingers whenever you get the screw down on the flat spot, but don't tighten it down just yet. Just enough so it doesn't move off of the flat spot. Actually, while we're at it, let's go ahead and put in this other set screw too. Same deal though, we don't want to tighten it down all the way. There is no flat spot here, but let's go ahead and get it in while we're at this angle. So not snug, just touching the part. We'll snug it down in a minute. Now flip it up. Now we're going to finish putting on the rest of our linkage. And the reason why I didn't have you tighten down the set screw and the counterbalance, do you see this? It's kind of stiff. Once I get the linkage on, we're going to loosen that set screw just a little bit and let this kind of fall like it should, but we'll do that in a minute. This linkage is going to pop on just like so. You see that? This is a little stiff. We need to fix that. That's why we didn't tighten down the set screws. But let's go ahead and get these two screws back in. If you remember, when we took these out, they are reverse threaded screws. The longer one goes in here, the shorter one goes in here. So I'm going to put the longer one in first, and I'm not going to forget it is reverse threaded. And then come in and tighten it down. And it feels like you're doing it wrong. It's just reverse threaded. Snug that one up gently. That popped off. I had to back that top screw out a little bit. Same deal, reverse threaded. It's so easy to strip these screw heads out, so be careful. Now I want to see how this spins. I'm going to hold on to the linkage here, and it's actually not too bad. Feels pretty free. Now this is going to give you trouble until we get the needle bar in, which we'll do next. But just check this. If this feels stiff, you need to back out the screw and the counterbalance, or sometimes this screw just a smidge, turn it, and then tighten them back down again. Sometimes it's just a little bit funny. There's a little bit of play back and forth here. So if this is shoved in really tight, it can pinch this linkage and it won't spin. But I'm happy with this. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten down the set screws on the back of the machine now. Okay, for this next portion, we're going to be taking the needle plate on and off a couple times. We want to first get the needle bar in the machine. We're not going to be timing the hook. We're not going to be setting the height, but we want to get it in. Then we're going to jump over and put the needle plate on, put the presser bar in. Then we're going to jump back to the needle bar, remove the needle plate, and time the hook and set the height of the needle bar. It's funny, these machines, that's just how it works out the easiest. So to put the needle bar in, I want you to notice this linkage here is lining up. When it's pretty much at its lowest point, it's lining up with the hole on the back side of the machine. That is your access hole. We're going to take our needle bar clamp and screw, and let's just start that screw in there now. Don't put it in all the way, just get it started, and then we're going to slide it into the linkage here. Now we're going to take our needle bar. The needle bar has a flat spot on it. The flat spot's going to be facing the neck of the machine. We're going to drop the needle bar into the clamp and just kind of wiggle it down so it falls down into position. We're not going to let it fall all the way through the clamp though. Here's our flat spot. That's turned to the back for us. We want to go ahead and tighten down that screw now. So I can see it, and I'm just going to get my screwdriver in there and tighten it down. And when you do that, you should have this little circle portion of the needle bar also facing the neck. So that's tightened down. Now, my height's not perfect, my hook's not timed. Let's get the presser bar in. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our slide block and put it in. And there's this cutout here that the presser bar lifter rides in. That's where this portion of the slide block is going to go. And I'm just giving a little bit of oil. This right here faces you. Just get it in there with your fingers. If you rock this forward a little bit, it will give you room to get the slide block in there. Once you get the slide block in, you want to take your presser bar, and you're going to just drop it in the top of the machine. Here's my presser bar, flat side here facing you, through the slide block, and this portion first, then the slide block, and then you want to work it down through the machine. Now here's where you may benefit from a punch to kind of help tap it down. It just normally needs a little nudge. And of course, if you oil it first, that will help as well. But I have a little punch here, and I'm just very lightly tapping the end of this until I get it down. Now, this presser bar clamp is tight. It's a tight fit. Not every machine is going to be that way. The issue isn't with the presser bar here. It's how it's in the clamp. That's why I had to tap it down a little bit. So what do I do next? Well, I'm going to put the needle plate back on for a minute because I want to go ahead and set the height of the presser bar now. So we'll just put this needle plate back on. Then put your foot on, which we'll be taking the foot off as well again, but we need to have it on for this step because this will also help us center, like angle the presser bar in the right direction so that our hole in our needle plate lines up with the foot. So we get that on. Now, a few more parts to put on. Your spring, we're going to drop that in. I like to oil the spring. Drop it down in. Here is the thumb screw, more oil, and just screw it down, not all the way, maybe halfway or a little bit less, and just check your movement. Now, while your presser foot is down, make sure that your lifter is down also. And just make sure that the slide block, when you press on it, is down, making contact with the lifter. Then, before we add our presser bar clamping screw along with this little part here that's going to help us set the timing, we want to make sure the foot is straight. So all I'm doing here is I'm turning the foot, which is turning the presser bar, and I'm making sure that the hole in the needle plate is lined up properly. When it is, I'm going to take this part. Is this a slack thread regulator? I believe it is. Lots of names. And I'm just going to slide this little portion right here in this cutout, line everything up, and add my presser bar clamp screw. And we want to tighten that down nice and snug. Now let's check our work. We can raise our presser bar and then lower it down. That should be enough clearance under the foot. We're good to go. Now we can get back to the needle bar. Now for this next part, you could leave the needle plate on. I will take it off because I think it's going to help you see everything. But this part is done with the presser foot up, okay? Don't forget that. So let me get this needle plate off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and raise this needle bar up a little bit because I want to put the needle clamp on. So we're just going to put the little thumb screw back into the needle clamp, and we need a needle. I'm going to slide the needle clamp up onto the machine, insert my needle. The flat side of the needle is going to face the neck of the machine. So if you're facing this end of the machine, the needle, the flat side is going away from you. Make sure you push it all the way up into the clamp and then tighten down the needle. Okay, so my needle is in, it's tightened down. Now this is the fun part. So with our presser bar lifter up, we're going to turn our hand wheel, and what I want you to look at right here is this little gauge. So we have these little marks on our needle bar clamp. When the needle bar is in its lowest position, the little arrow should be lined up with the top line on the clamp. Now, when we turn the hand wheel and we take that little arrow and line it up with the bottom line, which would be right there, the point of our hook should be directly behind the needle. Now, mine is close. My hook point is just a tiny bit past the needle. What I would like is for it to be directly behind the needle. So yours could be a lot further off than that. But the good news is all we have to do is loosen this screw right here on the hook clamp, and then we can spin the hook so everything lines up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this a little twist, just a smidge. Look at my hook, and now you'll need to hold your hand wheel still when you do this so nothing moves. But I'm going to just slide the hook a little tiny bit. And I'm going to tighten down that screw because I can always loosen it again if I didn't get it right. So now I have my pointer lined up with the bottom line, and down here, my hook is directly behind the needle. Now, I'm still not done because I need to set the needle bar height, and just double check that a couple times before you move on. So what does that mean to set the needle bar height? So what you're going to look for is the eye of the needle. Eye of the needle. The top of the eye of the needle should be a 1/16 of an inch below this bottom part of the hook. Mine is just slightly high. So how do we fix that? Look at a 1/16 of an inch on a ruler first, so you get it in your mind, and then check this setting. If this needs to come up or down, if your needle is too low, you need to raise it up. If it's too high, you need to drop it down just a little bit. Do you remember the screw on the back of the machine for the needle clamp? We need to loosen it just a little smidge so we can, for me, pull this needle down a little bit. You may need to push yours up. So get your screwdriver. I'm just loosening the screw a smidge. I'm also making sure that my arrow is right on the second line, and then I'm going to hold my needle bar in position and I'm going to tighten that back down. Let's see, what do we have? Lowest point, my pointer lines up properly. I'm bringing it up to the bottom line. My hook's behind my needle here, and the eye of the needle is 1/16 of an inch below the hook. That's how you do that. Also, if you had a thread cutter, you could slide it back up onto your presser bar at this point. Mine is broken. And I'm not really a fan of these thread cutters anyway, so I'm not going to put one back on this machine. But if you had one, there would be another part that loops around. There is a side that is sharp. The sharp side goes up, and you just slide it up onto your presser bar. Just be careful when you do that. So, what did we do? We reinstalled the hand wheel. And listen, if your machine was running a little bit rough, by the time you get the hand wheel on and then these parts in, it should start turning smoother for you. All those parts are now together, working together, and it just makes such a difference. So hand wheel, then we also took care of the lifter as well as the tension pin releasing lever for those of you who took that out. We got the needle bar in, we got the presser bar in, the slack thread regulator on, we did our thread take-up system, and we timed the hook and set the height of the needle bar. So when we come back, we will do all of the bobbin area parts on this machine. So the bobbin case, and the bobbin case positioning bracket. When we get those in, then let's put the feed dogs in and set the height, and we'll get the slide plate on everything. So that was a lot, but I know you can do it. Please leave your comments below. I'd love to hear from you all. Let me know if you have questions. Don't forget to give this video a like before you leave. I appreciate you all so very much. I'll see you all again really soon. Bye.